Let me be clear. I don't want to talk about I'm not good at doing any. I appreciate those who have any and are able to leverage any. But I was asked to turn this into a series. I think it's probably an important series that I do that gets done. But this is going to be a little bit of a struggle. So I guess I'll do the intro and then I'll get into the thing. What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I'm your host, Raja Burrows, and I'm continuing the series on blank function for other function users, right? So the last video I did was TI for TE users, and today we're doing any for NI users. So I am lead NI. I have lead NI, INTJ guy over here. I'm a jumper. I'm not a jumper. I'm a glass lizard. So I'm doubling up on my SE at the bottom of my function stack. So I'm not as INTJ-ish, at least not outwardly, right? You're going to see me doing a lot of gathery actions. You're going to see a lot of that masculine SE punch in me when I'm like at my my default state is just going to be punchier. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, my first function is NI. Like it just is. There's no way around it. It's just NI. And what that means is that when we map these functions and the function stack onto the human needs, some really interesting stuff starts to emerge. And in my case, where everybody gets confused, where I have unintentionally misled people, is that I crave certainty so badly. It's nuts. It's crazy how much I value certainty and predictability. And, we're going to get into planning specifically, especially when it comes to NI versus NE. But when we're talking about NI versus NE, it isn't just living in abstract land. Sure, absolutely. But on a human needs level, NI really has more in common in a lot of ways with SI than it does with NE. And the reason for that is that SI and NI are both trying to meet the human need of certainty, organization, control. One of the things that Shave have been talking about in their most recent videos is that, yes, there are 4 human needs, but it really funnels down to 2 human needs, which is power and control, which they will probably eventually funnel down into just 1 human need, which is the DI, the self, identity. That's the human condition. They're already kind of there, and have been basically alluding to that in a lot of ways. But look out for a video in probably 6 to 9 months, where they're like, yep, there's only 1 human need. It's all about the self. It's all about the self. It's all about the DI and all of the weird fucking workarounds that people take to get that DI significance and power. So that's right, I guess. So when we're talking about the human need of certainty, organization, control, that's where NI and SI can actually look really, really similar. You just have to be tracking, like, what is it that we are trying to control? And in the case of NI, as Shave articulated in one of their more recent videos in the class, is that the human need of control, when attached to abstract, NI is really all about not just future possibilities. Like, it's not just about seeing future possibilities. It's about saying, okay, if this happens, then this happens. And so if that happens, then we can do this or this. Okay, so then we're going to have this inflection point. And so if we go down this road and we come to this decision, then we're going to make this next decision. and then we're going to go down that road, and then that will loop back into here, and eventually this is going to be the next decision point, and then we can go here or here, right? Or, so they use the example of planning a party. Let's make it like a little bit more concrete, right? So it's like, okay, we're planning a birthday party, which, disclaimer, maybe don't be planning large birthday parties during a pandemic. Don't do that. I do not recommend this. But let's pretend there is no pandemic and that we can be, people who don't have to socially distance, and we can go to parties and do things like that. Okay, great. So, we are we're planning a birthday party and we want to go to brunch. So then the party planner, 2 weeks ahead of time, I have to get a head count for all of the people. And let's say we want to do an afternoon tea. There's a great place in Albuquerque. If you happen to be going through Albuquerque and you're able to get into St. James Tea Room, great little, it's like a high tea place, super fancy schmancy. I love it. It's like a great once a year thing. So let's say that's the thing we want to do. And we say, okay, well, first we have to know how many people are going to be there because we have to make reservations. So then I need to get a head count several weeks in advance of who is probably showing up for this thing. And then I need to call the St. James Tea Room and make reservations. But, if we're more than 8 people, then the tables are going to be too far apart. So then we have to do this other thing, which means that I have to get the head count first and then see. And then if it's fewer than 8 people, then we can go to the St. James Tea Room. Otherwise, we have to do brunch somewhere else. And if we have to do brunch somewhere else, these are the options for brunch. We can go here or here or here. Okay, so of the brunch options, this place is the best. So why don't I call and make reservations for the brunch place now, just in case, and then we can cancel that if the tea ends up, not falling through and we are fewer than 8 people. So that whole process right there, that's NI. That is NI, save your crack addiction to hell. And my NI, that's what I feel obligated to do all the time. And I do not love this. I'm starting to become more aware of it. And it's now to the point where I have to go, okay, I have to make a conscious effort not to think into the future. Because I know that there's gonna be a part of me that's gonna want to try to do that. And that will actually be enough, right? Like I'm not going full, ESFP, like Logan Paul, I don't give a fuck, zero planning whatsoever. Like the part of my brain that wants to do the NI organizing contingency planning, that's just going to be running on autopilot, but it needs to be running in the background, not in the foreground. The foreground needs to be about, I need to be present. I need to be willing to dance in the rain. I need to be open to chaos and shit not going well. As opposed to my NI, which is like, no, there is no chaos. We have to manage all of the chaos. So here are the 7 directions that chaos can come from. So now I need to put up 7, walls to keep the chaos out, to either keep the plan on track or to be able to navigate around, whatever cannonball comes through, because I can't put up a good enough wall to stop that kind of a cannonball, right? It is as much about avoiding chaos as it is predicting it and building a plan that factors in the chaos. That is what NI is doing 24/7. It's doing it all the time. All the time. So, why does NE drain the fuck out of me lots of times? Not all the time. Obviously, there are some people with NE that I enjoy very much, that I can spend a lot of time with, and it's not a big deal. But like NE in its purest form drains the fuck out of me. And I can't do it myself. And here's what's really wild. For me as a glass lizard, right? So I'm lead NI, but I'm blast, play, consume, sleep last. So I'm doubling up on my OE, and it's masculine, but my first function is N. So a lot of people will type me as an ENFP. And or if they don't type, like let's say they're not in the typology community, they will slot me into the ENFP disruptor archetype in any given institution. And it's just terrible every time that happens, because my first human need, not only do I not have any, period, in my function stack, my first function is all about minimizing chaos. So what do I mean by chaos? I promise we're going to get to the any part of this, but I want to lay as much of a groundwork of like what the fuck NI is doing on, constantly all the time. When I say chaos, I mean something that I didn't account for, because I have a feeling of responsibility, a visceral need, a whatever. It's not that I can't handle the unexpected. It's not that I can't handle a change of plans. So one of my very, very good friends, she is lead. I know she's lead OI. I know that she's OI first. I want to say she's lead SI. I want to say she's lead SI, just because what I know about her and her life and where she's really succeeded. It is not so much in the abstract-y stuff. Like, she is very, very grounded and not intense analogy oriented like I am, which is why I'm saying SI. Again, that could be wrong, but definitely lead OI. And one of the things that we really have bonded over and have talked about is like, listen. Oh, also she's like a blast, like lead blast and then sleep. So we definitely bond over blaster shit all the time. It's great. So, but what she and I have talked about on many an occasion is like, listen, I love a good plan change. If the plans change, that's great. We have learned over time to welcome the change of plans. But crucially, there has to have been a plan to change. It has to be something where, like, here's the thing. We are perfectly happy dancing in the rain. This is what's so wild. We are totally happy dancing in the rain if we thought it was going to be sunny. If we were able to look at the forecast and see that it was sunny, and then we get caught in the rain, we're like, what a delightful twist of serendipity, right? We get super excited about it because we're like, oh man, like, right, we get our ass kicked a little bit. We're like, man, the plans, best laid plans, huh? Guess we have to learn how to dance in the rain. And it's like a fun thing for us. We overwhelmingly will not freak out that much if it rains and we thought it was going to be sunny. And that's where I think a lot of people get OI wrong, is it's like, oh, well, if you're lead OI, then you cannot handle a change of plans. You freak the fuck out when things change. We're like, no. Like, I mean, sometimes, but as you get older and as you get better at adapting and doing whatever, you come to understand that, like, sometimes it just fucking rains and you weren't expecting it. Or sometimes it's colder than you think and you have to buy a dumb sweatshirt. And then you have to learn to look at that as an opportunity to be like, you know what? I want to buy I'm going to get like an extra large sweatshirt because it's been a minute since I've had like a really snuggly, comfy, cozy sweatshirt. Ooh, I want one that's pink or whatever, right? And you find ways to dance in the rain and the moment, right? You learn to do that over time. But where we get really fucked off is if there was never a plan to begin with. If it was like, hey, so what's the forecast going to be? Who cares? It doesn't matter what the forecast is going to be because we can dance in the sun or dance in the rain just as easily because all we ever have to do is dance. And then I lose my fucking mind. I'm like, no, but we need. I'm happy to dance, but I need to have an idea of what I'm supposed to be dancing in, and then if it's different from that, I'm happy to change plans, but like we need something, right? So to go back to the party analogy, I am delighted to not be able to go to tea. That's great. The more the merrier, right? If I'm organizing my friend's party, she's really popular. She's got all the friends and they're not flakes and they all love her very much. I'm already mentally planning, like, you know what? We're probably going to have more than 8 people. So look, if the tea works out, amazing. But you know what? We're probably just going to be doing the brunch. We're probably just going to be doing a big brunch. It's going to be right. And then the other part of my NI future planning is like, okay, so if we're going to be going to brunch, there's probably going to be 12 people. It's probably going to be a chaotic shit mess trying to pay. So therefore, when I'm organizing this, I'm going to have everyone download Splitwise. I'm going to tell them beforehand, saying, I'll put it on my card. That's fine. Everybody download this app and I take a picture of the thing and then everybody pays me, and you Venmo me and it's fine and it'll be great, right? Because I'm already planning for even more future chaos. And it's not like I'm going, oh man, last minute change of plans. I guess you have to go to brunch. What are all of the logistics of brunch? I don't know. Let's dance in the rain. And now some poor schmuck is out, $70 because somebody decided to only pay for their entree and not their drink, and also didn't fucking tip because they're assholes like that, right? That's what NI is constantly trying to prevent. So why is NE such a goddamn disaster for us? And how do we do it a little better? And how can we make better use of NE? Again, whether it is within us as a shadow function, whether it's something we have to jury rig together by smashing our NI and our SE together, whatever it is, how can we do the NE thing? And why is it important for us to learn how to do it? So the more I really think about it, it comes down to 2 things. And where NI really gets fucked off is when we do one of 2 things. Either we'll get too extreme about best case and worst case scenarios. We get very, very intense about both of those in a savior state. So it's not like, somebody with lead SE finally getting that demonic moment of clarity where it's like, oh my God, I see the entire future. Everything's going to work out perfectly. This is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, and it's going to be amazing, right? We're doing that all the time. And it's really easy for us to go, okay, so if I take this class, then I'm going to meet these people, and then I'm going to meet somebody amazing, and then that person's going to introduce me to their agent, obviously. And then once I get introduced to that agent is obviously going to sign me. And then that agent is going to send me out on auditions. And then one of those auditions is going to be a pilot, which I'm obviously going to book. And then once I book that pilot, then I'm going to be filthy stinking rich. And then my life will be perfect, right? Okay, that's a lot of things that have to go perfectly for you, dude, that you have no control over whatsoever. So, like, maybe let's not invest a lot of emotional energy into that path, because that's one of those, like, well, if I flip a coin and it lands up heads 10 times in a row, then I get the thing, right? Or we will go too far in the other direction, right? To go back to the party planning thing, where it's like, okay, I'm going to assume that we're going to try to book the tea. We're going to get to 7, and then 9 people are going to RSVP. I'll have to cancel the tea, get the brunch, but then 2 different people are going to back out, and we'll be back down to 7. And then I'm going to have to try to keep get the original tea reservation back, but also maintaining the brunch reservation until the last minute because everything's going to be terrible. And I need to make sure that I have more money in my account because I'm assuming that everybody's going to be an asshole to me. And it's just like this weird, intensely fatalistic, like, boy, yeah, that's a really terrible scenario. Like, what? And you hear Dave, when Dave talks about his former life as a survivalist, when he's like, oh man, yeah, with the Y2K, and I had the machetes and the knives, and it was a whole thing because his NI only saw this is the absolute worst possible outcome. And in this event, I need to be prepared for the worst possible outcome. Which, like, do you though? Like, do you actually? Because I'm pretty sure you don't. And that's, this is a whole other discussion with like how to use SE. It sort of relates, right? So if you're like, well, this is the best case scenario and this is the worst case scenario, at the very least, we can mitigate this worst case scenario by just doing more SE, right? And so now your only job is then to dial back. Okay, well, yes, Magical Christmas Land, this happens, but it doesn't have to be Magical Christmas Land because you can do the SE and dance in the rain in the moment to like make some shit happen, even if things don't align perfectly. And so NE is really an extension of that. And it's why NE feels like such a goddamn superpower to me. Because NE just sees so many more possibilities. And it keeps more possibilities in play for longer. And that's what's fucking wild to me. And that's what really stresses me out. But I also recognize, you know what? I could really stand to use a little bit more of that, which is this like, all right, we have the worst case scenario, we have the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. And then there's these 70 scenarios in between. And my impulse as an NI user is to say, okay, fine, let's get rid of the most extreme ones. If those happen, we can just fucking, like, those are too extreme. We'll deal with them in the moment if we have to. But of the ones in the middle, which is the most likely? And again, that's what NI is constantly trying to evaluate, to measure, to figure out is like, what is the most likely thing to happen? But in doing so, we end up often willing that outcome into existence, either through brute force or by self-sabotage. If we're like, well, yeah, I started this job and it's probably not going to work out, you're not going to be looking, especially if you're lead NI, you're not going to be looking for ways to make it work because you're just going to be looking to confirm what you already perceive of like, listen, I don't want to be here. This job is probably going to be stupid. And so you're just going to be directing your attention towards what you have decided is the most likely outcome. What you have subjectively decided is the most likely outcome. But NE is so much better at like, listen, I'm going to just be in the moment. At any given moment, anything could happen. This could happen, or this could happen, or it could be great, or it could be terrible. And you just figure it out in the moment and then just make the best decision you can from moment to moment, depending on what the best possibility happens to be that emerges in the moment. So here's what I mean by this. Two analogies that that I think really illustrate this. One is the Winchester Mystery House. There's a whole class video on it, which is beautiful. But it's also on the YouTube channel, so you should go check that out as well. And Shan talks about that house as being a very NE kind of house, where it's like this staircase is going one way and then it runs into a wall, and you're like, I thought I was going this way. Haha, you actually have to go back down this way. Isn't it fun to be tricked? Right? It's got that very like Loki, trickster god, you know, it's Q from Star Trek Next Generation. It's Discord from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. It's Lauren Malvo from the first season of Fargo. Like, this is an archetype that appears a lot, right? And so that, again, like, there are lots of ways to look, but watch the Winchester Mystery House video and look for that little chunk where they're talking about the design of the house and how you're like, well, this is a door that goes into nothing. Ha ha! I know, right? You never would have seen that coming. Like, you never considered that as a possibility, did you? That door could just open into a closet that doesn't go anywhere. And you're like, yes? And to me, as an NI user, I'm like, why the fuck would you design this? For whom is this interesting? How is this fun? But allegedly, for somebody who's really all in on their NE, and again, maybe not in the context of the Winchester Mystery House, but this idea of like, ooh, this new idea popped up, this new possibility emerged in the moment that was totally unexpected. Isn't it fun? Like, let's leave this option on the table for as long as possible, right? And the other, I guess it's not really so much an analogy, but it's an anecdote. I guess an analogy and an anecdote. At my old company, it was a very NE-driven company culturally, and it was all about, let's generate as many ideas and possibilities as possible. Which, as an NI user, I'm actually fine with. I am super, super down to look at as many possibilities as possible and to generate those possibilities, right? But because my intuition is introverted, it's subjective, it wants to organize and narrow down, I want to gather a bunch of things and come up with a bunch of ideas and options and then shoot all of them down. I don't want options to still be on the table. I want to be like, okay, yeah, let's come up with 17 ideas. And then after we have 17 ideas, we will decide collectively, subjectively, whatever, on the best idea or the most likely outcome or whatever, right? Whereas NE is like, oh yeah, we've gathered all these ideas. Let's just keep all of our options open and see what is the best idea in any given moment. And I'm like, but let's say we have 15 ideas, and I just pick that because I have two hands and I'm imagining a third one in front of me. If you have 15 options, right? There's 5, 10, 15, right? 5, 10, 15. My NI wants to be like, okay, can we just get rid of the 10 that are probably not going to happen and just focus on the 5 that might? Whereas NE is like, no. We want to keep all 15. Why would we eliminate an option until we know for certain in the sensory that it's not going to come to fruition? Let's leave all of the doors open so that we can walk through them at any time. And that is something that my NI could be a lot better at. It just could. Because I am so quick to tunnel vision into something. And here's the thing. My NI is feminine as hell. So, I am as chaotic as OI can possibly be. And it's still very, very, very tunnel vision, right? It's not, masculine NI is like, shoom. It's really intense. I'm a little more flexible, which is maybe why I'm a little better at gathering options before eliminating them. Plus my double activated OE at the bottom. But right, like especially like a lead OE, an ENTP, an ENFP, they're just going to want as many options open until the door has to be closed. And that's true for just the gather in general, right? So to bring up like one of, it might be the most upsetting scene in any animated Disney movie. Non-Pixar. The most upsetting scene in any non-Pixar Disney animated movie. And that is the scene in The Little Mermaid. And y'all know where I'm going with this. When King Triton goes into Ariel's room and just destroys her shit. And oh my God, like it's weird. Like as a kid, I was always really affected by it. And then now that I'm an adult, I like can't watch it. It is so upsetting for me to watch now that I am no longer a child and like getting to be daddy aged. Like I watched it recently and like I almost started crying. It was really, really upsetting to me in a way that I was not prepared to deal with. But that to me is a classic organized versus gather conflict, plus the masculine sensory, whatever. Because Ariel, she's just gathering shit. It's like she has her own system of organization, whatever. But really, and again, I don't know what her type is. I think that she's probably some sort of lead NE, because she does get very fixated on the specific things and it's not the concepts. And she's very like she sings a whole goddamn song about being part of your world. And it's this like, it's a beautiful song. Goddamn. Part of your world. Can't do better than that, man. But her whole song about part of your world is like, I want to be where the people are. I want to see them dancing, and they could be doing this and they could be doing that. And, legs are required for jumping, dancing. It's great. But it's all that future possibility talk, which is why she just wants to gather and consume and do all like new, right? And she doesn't want to narrow down. She wants to leave as many options open as possible, which forces the other tribe members to come in and narrow things down for her. Let me be clear. What King Triton did was wildly inappropriate, super traumatic, unnecessary, uncalled for. He shouldn't have done that. I'm not here for that. I do not support his actions at all. But I recognize the impulse to be like, daughter of mine, who I love very much, you are over gathering. You are doing too much of the gather, and you need to like do some amount of narrowing down because it's just too much shit. You're just doing too much gather. But for me as an NI user, leaving my options open, it's a really good muscle for me to work. It's a really, really good muscle for me to work. I don't. Oh, Sebastian is an INTJ. I'd have to think about that. I think that Sebastian is definitely savior OI because he sings a whole goddamn song in a savior state about how amazing life is exactly where you are, right? It's very similar to the opening song of Moana, right? Where all the villagers are like, it's basically the same song, Under the Sea versus Where You Are from Moana. Very similar. It's like, look at all of the things that we can do without having to change anything. Look at how great things are exactly as they are, right? But Ariel, she's not having that. She wants to keep her options open. I am much more Sebastian-y. Much more Sebastian-y. When I find something that I like, I will run it into the ground. Yes, kiss the girl. Oh, sure. Yeah, he matched setting the plans. Yeah, he's definitely maybe I get an FE kind of vibe out there, right? He's like, all right, we got the wind, right? We got the reads, the words, right? He's like setting up the whole vibe and the mood and the like, let's get everybody on the same feelings page. Sha la 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 ma. Oh, God. I have to watch the goddamn Little Mermaid again or just listen to the soundtrack because that soundtrack is fucking lit. Oh man. But yes, right. So that's actually, I don't hate that with Sebastian as lead and I as like mastermind planning person, right? But regardless, he when we're talking about like, an NI user doing more NE, my biggest issue as an NI is I am so afraid to jump ship until I have run it into the ground. Case in point. So this is something I can now talk about now that it is officially over, or it will be in 5 hours. So I was doing improv classes all year. I was doing them at Second City. And it was great. It was some of the best classes I've ever taken. Really, really incredible instructors. And then at the beginning of this last term, right? So you do 3 classes and then an audition, and then 2 more classes and then another audition before doing like the big like graduate show. And so I did the first 3 classes and I was like, holy shit, I fucking love this. I don't like the improv part. And I knew that right at the beginning. But I was like, I know that we move into sketch and I know that it gets away from like the pure improv thing pretty quickly. And then there was the 4th class, which just fucking blew my mind. It was incredible. 2 really, really exceptional sketch teachers. They were great. They were great. One of them had to leave early. It got replaced by, again, just one of the best teachers I've ever had in life. Like teacher, director. His name is Ron West. What a hell of a guy. If for whatever reason if you ever see the name Ron West in any sort of teaching capacity, take whatever the fuck he is teaching. I do not care. Take class with Ron West. He's amazing. But then I got to the class 5, and then now the 5th class is really about, okay, how do we put together a show in this, within the institution of Second City? And I was like, oh, this is not what I want to do. This is not something I want to commit to. And in a bizarre twist of fate, I actually bailed on the class. So I finished out the class itself, but I did not choose to audition to move forward. I'm not moving forward because even though my NI had locked onto this thing, I was like, I know that this is not going to work out. Like, I don't need to run this into the ground just because I've already committed to it. Let me brainstorm a little bit and open up my NI box to a bunch of possibilities and let them sit there. And just to recap, thinking of NE as a superpower, the superpower is not in the idea generation. Anybody can generate ideas. The superpower to me comes in NE's ability to let all of these ideas and possibilities coexist. That's what's fucking mind-blowing to me. That at any given moment, life could go in 17 different directions, and then you just have to pick one, and then in that next moment, you have 17 other possibilities. Yeah, NE creates, NI discovers. The other thing that I like is there's the clip about Robert Downey Jr. and the way that he talks about his NE is like, you have 4 walls, and it's like you have this thread that's just very lightly tugging at you, and you can't fight it. You just have to sort of follow it and feel it, and you're like, I think it's behind. No, I think it's behind that wall right there. And you take down the wallpaper, and then the answer's right there. But in that process, he's leaving all of his options out, right? So let's say he's like, I have to find the answer. It's behind one of these 4 walls. I'm going to leave all 4 walls as options until the last possible second, until I am so committed, like, the thread is pulling me. I think it's this way. I think it's this. No, I think it's this. Yep, this way, this way. Yep. All right, time to pull the trigger. Boom. And now we're in a new moment with 4 new walls and 4 new possibilities. That's what NE is doing. Whereas my NI is like, well, it was behind the wall last time, right? And so my impulse is going to go to the wall where it was last time. Well, last time it was back there. I got fucked. All right, it was in the front wall. And then over time, I, try a bunch of different walls and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, given these circumstances, there's a 54% chance it's on that wall. So I'm just going to guess that wall as soon as possible. And then if I'm wrong, okay, whatever, I'm going to add it to my data bank and adjust my percentages. But I'm not really keeping my options open for very long. My goal is to limit my options as soon as I can, which is great sometimes, like cool, whatever. But I do think that there is something really important and beautiful about being able to keep your options open, and then at the last second, that's when you make the decision. And it feels really spontaneous. It feels really sporadic. It feels chaotic. It feels unexpected. But it also has a vitality that NI can very, very much lack. It just can't. And so, as with everything, balance is important. But I think that particularly for the NI users, the lead NIs, the savior NIs, the people who are doubling up on their NI, in whether it's a savior or demon state, doesn't matter. Making card games, NE to make structure, rules, etc. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I have a friend who's a game designer. And he was officially typed as lead NE. So he's an audio, consume, sleep, blast, play last, ENFP. And he is very much about keeping options open and possibilities, and then at the last minute, that's when he'll make the decision. Whereas my NI and the NI of my friends will go into it with a goal in mind. We don't want to leave our options open. We want to be like, all right, what is the most assured path to victory? If we have to pivot, we can, but let's at least start on the road that we think will lead us to victory first. So, for those of us NI people out there, staying open, it's going to help us. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I would much rather do SE than NI, but doing a little bit more, SE than NE, but doing a little bit more NE, I think could bring a lot more joy into my life. And quite frankly, it could give us better information because we won't be so committed to like running back to our known information all the time. And we can actually be in the moment and potentially make even better decisions. All right, that's all I got for today. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you to those of you in the comments. I really do appreciate, and all of your comments, especially the live ones. That's why I do these things live, so that there's the opportunity for people to chime in. And so I really do value that. I'm very excited about this series, and I can't wait to continue. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.